Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Beauty from Ashes by Harper Wylde and Quinn Arthurs. Narrated by Heather Costa and Brandon Utah. Prologue. Rini. Mated. The word echoed through my head as I stared at the moving shadows on the ceiling. I'm a mated female. When Kieran had burst into my rooms a few weeks ago, I had assumed it was to reject me again, to tell me I wasn't enough. Instead, my proud, stubborn Celt had knelt tearfully to the ground and apologized. To me and my bears. Apparently, a little heart-to-heart with Nyx had given him a new sense of purpose. And he had told me there was nothing he wanted more than to mate with me, with us, and to form the family he had always wanted. In his adamant declaration, his puka had risen, and together they'd shifted into a new form, a bear, to show his love for me and his commitment to our family, and his promise. Shock and elation warred inside me, even as he had scooped me into his arms and kissed me until I melted. He wanted me. He really, truly wanted me. I hadn't even had a chance to thank Nyx before our lives exploded. With the appearance of Tao with Killian, and the arrival of a true invitation to war, our lives had become one emergency after the next. But Kieran had worked his magic, cobbling together a small ceremony with our friends and family for the 5 of us. Now I lay in bed, listening to my bears snore like chainsaws, as a sense of utter warmth and peace washed across me. This was exactly what I had been waiting for. "Can't sleep, little bear?" Kieran's arm wrapped around me, tugging me against him as I squeaked. "Just thinking," I admitted with a sigh, snuggling closer. Heat built in my body as his hard, bare chest rubbed against my back. The man was ripped as hell, and he knew how to use that body well. Kieran turned me over, tilting my head up to search my eyes. "Are you having regrets?" Although his voice was calm, I could see the nerves in his eyes, the way the pale jade green swirled with shadows at the thought. My sweet puka. He put up that shield with everyone else, hiding the man he truly was. The sweet, sexy, violent man that was so wrapped up in layers of false humor, manipulation, and stoicism. "No," I assured him immediately, pressing a gentle kiss to his lips. "No, of course not. I was just thinking of how happy I am, how much I owe Nyx for this. I'd never stop owing her for this. If I had formed the bond with my bears, there would never have been a way to add Kieran to it. I would have lived my life with a missing piece. All because we were both too trapped by our own insecurities to be honest with each other and hope for a future." Kieran ran his hand through my hair, his fingers toying with the strands as though they were the softest silk against his skin. "She loves you very much." "You as well," I reminded him. I laughed as a thought occurred to me. "You know, when she mates with her men, we'll end up as sisters-in-law." A bright smile swept across Kieran's face as he considered that. "I think she'd be very happy with that idea." He nuzzled my neck, nipping gently as I sucked in a breath. "Just a few weeks left until their ceremony." I murmured my agreement, even as he sought to distract me. "I still wish she had agreed to a double ceremony," I told him, my voice husky and breathy as he traced small circles across my lower back, his fingers dipping into the dimples at the base of my spine. "I don't." His lips found mine, his tongue darting into my mouth to taste me, consuming me before he pulled away to stare into my eyes. "Today was for us, Serena," he purred, and my bears stirred, waking up and murmuring their agreement to Kieran's sentiments. "To show you how much we love you, how much we will always love you. No matter what happens, teddy bear, no matter what this war brings, you are the sunshine of my life. I am lucky to have you. We all are." Desperation crashed into me at the idea of losing him, losing any of them, and I fused my lips to his again. Slowly, other hands began to stroke over my back, my thigh, my arm, and I smiled against Kieran's lips as I pulled away to look into the eyes of my other mates, Barrett, Donovan, and Caden. "I love you all," I told them with a smile as they caressed me. Kieran tossed me into the arms of my bears, making me squeal and laugh. "Then let us worship you, mate, for all the time we have." I was definitely not fool enough to say no to that kind of offer. And I let them take me, pleasure washing away my worries as we all exhausted ourselves once again. For tonight, the future didn't matter. For tonight, there was no war, no plots, no debts owed. Tonight was for myself and my mates, and I was going to enjoy every moment of it. Chapter 1. Nyx. Sending people an invitation to their death took self-centered, passive-aggressive behavior to an extreme I never would have believed existed. I tapped the embossed card against my head, leaning back in my chair as I stared down at the elegant script scrawled across the thick paper. "You ready, sweetheart?" Damien rumbled in my ear, and I angled my head to look up at him with a sigh. His dark eyes searched mine, but he didn't push, waiting for me to reach out to him, rather than tearing at my mental walls to dig for my thoughts and emotions. I held out my hand for his, tugging him down for a quick kiss. "Just waiting for you," I murmured, before pushing to my feet and setting the card aside. Nerves gnawed at my stomach as Damien led me from the room and toward the prison we had set up. It had been 2 weeks since our stronghold had been invaded by Birdman, carrying this invitation to our so-called demise. Not to mention dropping a bomb on all of us by claiming I was Stepanov's daughter. A shudder raced across my skin, and my phoenix screeched both her denial of the possibility and her fury at the hybrid who had invaded our sanctuary. I had expected him to attack, to lash out with the poison he had used on me before, but he had simply settled into a seat and waited for us to read the invitation before we dealt with him. He hadn't fought, hadn't spoken, had simply allowed himself to be bound and taken hostage without complaint. Not that he had much to complain about, really. We weren't cruel like they had been to me. Theo had taken blood samples and scans of the other shifter in an attempt to figure out what he was. But we hadn't tortured the man. We didn't need to, not with Damien. Or at least that was what we'd first believed. Damien had tried over and over to search the hybrid's mind, to question him, with no success, much to his frustration. "I still don't like this," Killian muttered, stepping up beside us as we walked. "None of us do," Damien replied shortly. "But she's the only constant in his mind. If I can't find something I can use as a focus, I can't search him." A grimace worked its way across his handsome face, and I stroked my hand down his arm. "Hey, it's okay," I soothed, reaching out my other hand to repeat the gesture on Killian, trying to comfort both my mates. "You'll all be there, right?" I reminded them. "Nothing's going to happen." "I don't understand his mind." Damien's eyes were slightly unfocused, though his feet never faltered in their path. "It's like I'm looking at the minds of multiple people at once, and none of them are whole or stable." I squeezed his hand, encouraging him as he tried to sort it out. Theo, Ryder, Hiro, and Joshua were waiting for us outside of the sealed rooms that served as our prison, and I offered them a smile, unwilling to interrupt Damien's train of thought to greet them all. "So he's insane." My blunt bunny didn't pull any punches, especially when it came to his family's safety. Damien made a noise in his throat. "I'm not sure he's sane, but I can't say he's insane either." "What do you mean?" Theo asked, adjusting his glasses even as he ignored the lock of dark blonde hair that fell over his forehead. "I was inside Ishida's mind," Damien began, reaching up to rub his temple. "I've been inside the minds of others once they have shattered. That's exactly what happens. They truly shatter, like a mirror against stone. His mind is nothing like that. I've never experienced anything like it." "You mean he's like Kieran?" Ryder mused, running a hand through the purple strands of his hair. I loved how the color illuminated as it caught the overhead lighting, nearly glowing against his sun-kissed skin. "No." Despite the seriousness of the situation, I could almost hear the unsaid "thank God" at the end of that sentence. Kieran was covering his mind, hiding it, attempting to make himself appear dim-witted and unfocused, and used music and random thoughts to act as a cover for his true self. It's more like... He considered us for a moment, searching for the words he needed. "It's more like he doesn't have a true self." Damien leaned back against the wall, letting the wood take his weight as he thought. "I can always feel a person's alter in their minds, but it's an echo. It's not a real presence. When a mind is shattered, it's like picking through pieces. His mind feels nothing like either. It's a mess of blurred lines and sharp edges all jammed together and combined into one entity. Can you show me? Theo's blue eyes were sharp. Damien tilted his head. I can try. I'm not sure I can pass the full sensation, though, he cautioned. Just try, I encouraged. Maybe if I can understand a bit better, it will help me when I talk to him. Damien opened our link, and I felt him push an impression of him searching Birdman's mind toward me. It was a view of our compound, of the buildings from overhead, I realized. It should have been simple, a flash of memory, yet in a moment I understood what Damien meant. I felt like I was seeing through a poorly filtered screen, each piece of the image colored and processed slightly differently. Emotions battered me, none of them seeming to connect, and each of those fragments felt off, disconnected, yet were still clearly a part of the whole. Ryder swore, staggering slightly, before Hiro caught him, keeping him steady on his feet. Joshua had gone slightly pale, reaching out to steady himself against the wall. What in the hell is that? Joshua whispered, his eyes wide as he looked at us. That's what you've been looking at? I questioned breathlessly. His entire mind is like that? Damien's mouth was pressed into a thin line. Everything. I can't even get to it all. Much of it's still walled off, but the parts he's let me into, it's all the same. What could cause that? Killian asked, and even the sturdy Celt looked a little sick, his fair skin slightly green. Theo sighed, pushing his glasses up his nose. It might actually make sense. All our eyes whipped to the Kraken. I finished all of the testing I've been working on. I was going to go over the results with you before we went in there today. But seeing this, it makes everything a little clearer. Damien waved a hand for him to continue and pulled me against his chest, nuzzling his head into my hair. Theo looked to all of us in turn. He's a hybrid. We knew that already, Killian grumbled. You don't understand. The kids, there may be two types of shifters. The types are forced to integrate, unlike a typical mating, but there's still two types. Him? Theo shook his head. I found markings for at least 8 kinds of shifters in his DNA. Active types of shifters. His eyes locked with mine as he added, including an avian marker I've only seen one other time. I froze. He's part Phoenix? Not Phoenix, Theo assured me. But whatever your father's bloodline is, I've still had no luck identifying that. But you know it's not Stepanov's Kochi, I pointed out. It doesn't match what's in the database. I only know what he contributed to the database doesn't match, Theo reminded me gently. He could have had his own reasons for not wanting his genetic material catalogued and simply provided false material. He's not avian, though, Ryder argued, slamming his hand into the wall. I don't understand why that guy, or Stepanov for that matter, would make that kind of claim. Mind games, Killian replied coldly. What else would it be? He knew it would fuck with our girl's head like nothing else. Killian wasn't wrong, and I shuddered again, despite Damien's warmth at my back. I had already gotten rid of one murderer of a father, only to be told I had another one. It was like I was cursed. I knew bloodlines didn't define a person, but I still didn't want to be related to that evil bastard. Ryder has a point, I murmured, pulling Damien's arms tighter around me. He's creepy as hell, but he's not a bird. Joshua winced, rubbing the back of his neck. Actually, that's not true. All of us froze, turning slightly to look at him. Or may not be true, he added hurriedly. It's an old legend. You have to dig for it. But there are some who say that a Kochi can take on another form, a bird. My dad mentioned it once. Stepanov keeps the legend hushed up, swears it's a lie. A human manipulation of the legend in order to try and add something less fearsome to his kind. Like the story that basilisks can be killed by a rooster crowing? Ryder queried dryly, poking a finger into Joshua's side. Joshua didn't take offense, just nodded. I groaned, sagging in Damien's grasp, knowing my gargoyle wouldn't let me fall. Let's deal with that part later, I pleaded, resting my head against him. What else did you learn about the prisoner? Damien asked Theo, pressing his lips gently against my head. Theo grimaced. He's a mix of avian and reptilian shifters that veer toward the venomous ranges, though nothing as rare as basilisks. I can't guarantee what traits he has gained from each, just that you will need to be wary. I'll monitor his mind as much as I can. If nothing else, I hope I can at least pick out if he's telling us the truth." Damien didn't sound hopeful, and I stroked a hand down his arm in reassurance. "Keep your eyes open. He hasn't tried anything, but he's from the council. I still haven't been able to figure out why they'd sacrifice him for no reason." The others nodded sharply, their eyes alert. I swallowed hard and attempted a smile I knew was shaky on the edges. "Well, let's see if we can work this out one bird to another." Damien released me gently as Joshua opened the sealed doorway, allowing us entrance. The room he directed us to was cool, and the sparse furnishing was secured to the dark cinder block walls. I assumed it was so nothing could be used as a weapon. The man I had taken to calling Birdman since my time in captivity was restrained on a cot the size of a twin bed, though the bindings attached between his wrists and the wall gave him some freedom of movement, enough so he would be able to reach the toilet and sink in the corner, and have some flexibility in the way he sat or slept on the bed without injuring himself. Even here, he remained in the partial shift I remembered, with a tail of feathers interspersed with jewel-toned scales that stood out in the dim light, reflecting against the pale fabric of the clothing he'd been given to wear. Damien stepped in first, but Birdman's eyes didn't turn toward him until I crossed the threshold in his wake. They were dark and deep when they caught me in their depths, and though it might have been a trick of the light, his shoulders seemed to relax slightly, even as my mates filled into the room, keeping a wall of bodies between us. "Hello," I winced as the word popped out, but I wasn't quite sure how else to greet a prisoner. Interrogation 101 hadn't exactly been offered in college, and we hadn't gotten that far with my rebellion training either. Ryder made a noise in his throat, and I was sure he had swallowed a chuckle. Birdman blinked at me, the motion slow, before he inclined his head. "Hello, Nix," my phoenix hissed at him, though surprisingly she wasn't pressing me to strike out the way I'd expected. "What's your name?" He shrugged. "If the council members wished to call me something when we were around others, they occasionally called me Mordred. Usually they did not need to use a name, so they did not call me anything." "Truth." Damien's voice slipped through our mental link. "That's more than he's said to us since he's been here. You're doing well, sweetheart." I wrapped my arms across my stomach as I studied him. "That sounds lonely." Hell, Birdman seemed like better name than that. When he didn't respond, I tried again. "Why did you want to speak to me?" "You interest me." I could feel my mates tense at his admission before they angled themselves in front of me. "I don't think he's attracted to her," Damien growled, but there was hesitancy in his tone. "It's more curiosity. I don't even know if that's right." "Why?" "You smell like me." He shrugged nonchalantly and picked at the bedding for something to do. I opened my mouth for a second, then closed it again, unsure what to say. "I didn't realize it at first," he continued when I could only stare at him. "It's why I couldn't stay away from you. You didn't respond in the ways I expected you to, which was interesting enough, but you smelled different. Then I realized you smelled like me. The Mako you share," Theo explained softly. "Your sense of smell is strong enough to pick up a minute familial connection." Mordred didn't respond, just merely stared at me. "Repeat his question," Damien instructed. I could feel my face pinch together in confusion, but I complied, repeating Theo's question. Mordred inclined his head. "Yes, it's one of the things I was bred for." "So he'll only answer her," Hiro surmised. "This will get tricky. Ask him why he came," Killian demanded. "Why the hell he stayed." "Why did you bring the invitation to us?" I shifted slightly, feeling Killian's warm hand against my back, offering support and encouragement. "Because I was ordered to." "Truth." Damien's mental voice was gritty, as though he was straining. "His mind is so hard to sort through, but I can get basic truths and lies." "But why stay?" I pressed, my eyes not leaving his gray ones. "You didn't try to take any of us out. You didn't flee. You just stayed. Why?" "I was ordered to deliver the letter. I wasn't ordered to return. I wasn't ordered to kill anyone." He lifted a shoulder slightly. "I didn't want to return, so I didn't." "Truth or lie?" Theo inquired, his mental tone sharp.
The first part was the truth, I think.
Damien didn't sound sure.
I just don't understand it. The second part, it's more fluid. He doesn't want to return, but I don't think he wants to stay either. I don't understand.
If you don't want to return, then what do you want? I questioned, knowing we needed the truth.
Help!
The word was nearly torn from his throat as he pressed a hand to his head, his chains rattling and his shoulders hunching as if he'd been dealt a sharp blow.
Help?
I repeated, glancing quickly at my mates.
To help you and have you help me.
His fathomless eyes brightened as they looked into mine. His shoulders still curled away from whatever pain sliced into his mind.
Sister.
Chapter 2. Nyx. I nearly stumbled. I probably would have if not for Killian's solid arms wrapping around me, holding me up tightly in place, the warmth of his chest pressing firmly against my back. Shock was quickly replaced by anger. Okay, people really need to stop claiming me as family. I threw my arms into the air, trying to move forward to glare at the mysterious man solemnly studying me, assessing my every move as I seethed. First, Stepanov sends you with that letter claiming I'm his daughter, then you claim I'm your sister? Enough!
Easy, Annie girl.
Killian's grasp tightened, the only thing keeping me from lunging forward as fury surged through my veins.
It's my job to jump into rages, remember?
He purred into my ear, and a small shiver worked over my skin, distracting me from the blind rage clawing at me. I knew the flush on my cheeks wasn't solely anger, now as embarrassment, and a little heat flowed into the mix when Hiro and Joshua stroked gentle, encouraging hands down the arms Killian still held, pinned against my trembling body. I breathed deeply, leaning back into their touch as I tried to settle the ire deep inside myself for the moment. Interesting. At his bland comment, my phoenix hissed, and I wanted to rage all over again, though I managed to bite my tongue and breathe through it.
That's it, sweetheart,
Damien murmured.
You're doing well.
I wanted to snort. Nearly jumping forward to smack him didn't exactly qualify as doing well. But that had been one hit too many.
To be fair, sister may not be the technical term anymore,
Birdman spoke up.
I can smell the familial relationship. However, with how convoluted my own genealogy is at this point, if you prefer cousin or another term, please use that.
He lifted a shoulder in a sharp shrug.
You smell the relation?
Theo asked sharply, his blue eyes now focused. At Birdman's refusal to answer, I sighed, tired of the game we were playing. These are my mates. You can treat their questions as if they are my own. He stared, but then finally agreed with one sharp incline of his head, and Theo repeated his question. We held our breath, waiting until Birdman, Mordred, I corrected myself with a wince, nodded and proceeded to answer.
Yes, my sense of smell is far superior to even his.
He indicated Hiro with a negligent wave, his chains clanking with each movement.
I know my own scent. I could smell the same scent on Stepanov. How can you tell it's not from merely being near you?
Theo challenged.
Or from being the same type of shifter?
Mordred arched a brow, straightening as he sat on the cot.
How can you explain the way you manipulate water? Or how you knew you could breathe under it rather than drown? Your ability is a knowledge in and of itself, Kraken. Some things I simply know. Others I do not. For example, if I knew your scent, I may not know you as a Kraken. But once I found out what a Kraken was, I could identify you. Once I met your family, I could identify that you shared blood.
Grudgingly, Theo angled his head in acceptance as Damien muttered, "Truth." So he is my father. The words came out stronger than I had expected them to, though how long that strength would last I couldn't be sure. Mordred's gray eyes were clear as he looked up at me, yet his gaze was empty and as chilling as ice.
You smell like him,
he stated simply.
Then why did he send you here?
Joshua challenged.
You're obviously a hybrid, which means you must know about their twisted breeding program. You knew about his connection to Nyx. It seems that you're worth more to us than to him for information alone. Why would he send you?
Mordred inspected his bindings.
Because he believes he will win. And my knowledge will prove to be as useless to you as I now am to him."
His answer was flat, with no emotion to color it, and as simple as if he read off of note cards. But was that a tell on its own? Was he reading a script to us? A poor actor reciting the lines the council had fed him?
"The breeding program has been stalled by this war you have incited."
He drew up his knees and rested his wrists on top, and somehow he looked every bit the prisoner he was. Trapped, confined.
"Even after it ends, if the council wins, as they are sure they will, it will take years to rebuild their numbers and to ensure themselves of their power. Their attention will need to remain focused on other things. He is no longer hiding his relationship to Nyx, so my knowledge of said relationship does not affect his plans."
"Screw that," Killian spat.
"I'm more interested in what you want from her."
"You can talk all you want about the council afterwards. Maybe it's a lie, maybe it's not. What are you trying to get out of this? That's what it comes down to, after all." His arms were still around me, guarding me as much as containing me, and I reached out to gently stroke my puka. I knew he hated this, hated having me anywhere near someone he considered a threat to us and our bond, our family.
"It's simple, really."
Mordred stared at us, deadly serious.
"I want to change."
"You want to join the rebellion?" Ryder scoffed. Mordred arched a brow.
"No."
His tone had cooled slightly. Apparently he did feel something after all.
"Why would I follow your rebellion? You don't want to go back to the council, but you don't want to join us either. You clearly cannot join the humans."
Joshua waved a hand toward the small patches of feathers and scales that decorated visible pieces of his skin.
"I have heard whispers about some of your rebellion members."
Mordred didn't bother to answer Joshua.
"That there are some who would like to see everything that they are stripped away."
My phoenix let out a harsh cry, instinctively recoiling from what he was saying.
"You want your altar stripped?"
Mordred's eyes were sharp as they considered me, and he shifted to the edge of the bed. His feet were flat on the floor, and his hands rested robotically in his lap. The guys tensed and then relaxed when he didn't make another move.
"I have grown up in that lab. I was their favorite experiment for many years, the one who survived, who managed to take everything that was given to me and still develop. Over time, I grew from being an experiment to being a—"
He paused, searching for a term.
"Foot soldier, you could say. I rarely left the lab, but when I did, it was for short, specific tasks, as my mutations cannot be hidden for more than a few hours at best. I wasn't the end result they wanted, not the success they needed. I was simply useful, a curiosity, a grunt, a whipping boy."
Tears burned in my eyes, and my chest ached at the picture he painted. A poor, abused little boy who had been tortured and manipulated. Our paths might have been very different, but there was a common theme between us, and it was enough to soften me a little. He cocked his head, studying me.
"Again, you cry for someone not yourself. You've done that before. I am not sad about my past. It's simply what was."
He shrugged as if the world of pain he'd experienced was of no consequence.
"What I want is to rid myself of the other beings within me. They are wrong, foreign, and they do not belong. I will tell you what I can, but do not expect revelations for this."
Those words were a clear warning.
"I am no key for revealing their secrets. If that's what you expect in return for removing my curse, you will not get it."
He looked to each of us in turn, making sure we understood the truth behind his words.
"I can, however, provide some information about the program you seem eager to know more about."
His eyes turned toward Theo, who nodded slightly before Mordred continued.
"If you agree to strip away what does not belong, I will tell you what I know. But I wasn't privy to their secrets, wasn't part of their circle. I'm not a weapon to help you win your war, which is why they sent me. I am merely one more pawn they are sweeping off their board. I was trusted enough, considered loyal enough, that I would do this job without failure, without running or turning, and accept my fate. That is the reason I was chosen. Truth."
Damien's mental voice rang with pure fury, though his face was emotionless as he listened.
"If you don't want to be part of the rebellion, you won't be allowed to stay within our walls."
Damien wasn't cruel, but he was firm.
We aren't able to have anyone here who could end up...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?